You got your Mac and Mac guys here on Birds 365. McMullen and McDonald hanging with you. We're talking Eagles. We're talking NFL. We'll talk a little WrestleMania later. But let me go there first. Paul Domowitch, did you watch WrestleMania this weekend?
I'm going to say Damo's not a Mania guy, but I don't know.
I absolutely did not.
Yeah,
I never will. I am not.
You're missing out, Damo. By the way, WWE officially sold to Endeavor today. So a monster new company with UFC and WWE. But we'll talk about that later after you go, Damo. One of the major things, not a lot go. You have the lull before the draft and after free agency. Howie's kind of draft proofed himself for the draft at this point. All these 1-year deals. But, some of the betting lines came out. The Eagles are still second best team in the NFC, according to them. I think, what was the win total, Jody? 10.5.
49
so
11.5.
Everybody's saying they're still a really good team. One interesting thing that did happen over the weekend, both Fletcher Cox was on Chris Long's podcast and admitted, hey, the Jets were coming and the Jets wanted him. And he decided to stay in Philadelphia. And Darius Slay on his podcast admitted he was this close, he said, to going to Baltimore. If those two guys did leave, do you think they'd be a contender still, a significant contender in the NFC?
Well, yeah, because I think their offense is going to be better. Fletcher Cox does not have a lot left. Slay is on the downside as well. I mean, these still are guys that they need next year. But I don't. I mean, the Jets wanted Fletcher Cox. Yeah. How much? I don't know. I think they would have still been contenders. I think they would have found a way to plug those gaps. Might have affected how they approached the draft later this month, as far as how they used those 2 first-round picks. But I think they still would have been serious contenders, even if they had lost Slay and Cox.
Yeah, as far as those two guys that you brought up, John, I'm sorry if I'm not buying their spin. If I had heard from Joe Douglas and the Raven general manager DeCosta that here's what I put on the table for these two players, that I would believe. There's a bunch of ways you can spin a contract. CJGJ's agent, you didn't believe what he was saying when he put it out there as to what the Eagles offered in the 3-year deal, right, Johnny Mac? You thought that
no, but that wasn't. That tweet was weird. I've never seen the Eagles structure a contract like that, so I don't think that was the contract offer. I don't have any information on Slay. I do think the Jets, offered more money. I got that pretty locked down. A little bit, not a lot. A little bit more money.
But when you say offer more money, do we know it wasn't a 2-year contract where you could add the 2 years together? Well, they offered more money, but it was actually less in 1 year than it would have been. And if the money wasn't guaranteed, will he even get to the second year? There's a lot of ways you can say things and spin things that make them look different. Like Slay yesterday. Oh, the Ravens gave me what I wanted. No, they didn't. If they did, you would have gone to the Ravens.
Well, nobody gave Slay what he wanted.
According to Slay, that's not true. That's exactly what he said yesterday. The Ravens gave him more. They offered him what he wanted. Well, but he's not a Raven. He's an Eagle. So I take when players make statements like both of those two guys said, sorry, I take them both with a grain of salt.
Yeah, it's understandable. In Slay's case, I mean, he was set to make $17.5 million this season, but it wasn't guaranteed. All the guaranteed. So Damo knows this. When all the guaranteed money is out, players want an extension and they want guaranteed money, and that's all that matters. So in theory, Slay got, I think, 22.5 or 23 guaranteed over 2 years, which is a hell of a lot. Real money, it's more than he was set to make, which wasn't guaranteed, would have been guaranteed day one of the season because he's vested. But, he got $5 million. The Eagles got $10 million in cap relief. So that was sort of the trade there. With Fletch, it's like he's getting $10 million from the Eagles. He probably would have got $11 million from the Jets or $12 million. and he did decide to stay with the Eagles. My question for Damo is, and Jeffrey kind of said this. Jeffrey Lurie said this out at the meetings, Damo. He basically said, offense, offense, offense. You can't stop great quarterbacks. And you're saying they would be contenders without Fletcher Cox and Darius Slay. If that's the case, do we even have to worry about defense? Are we at that tipping point where it's like, all right, just add Bijan Robinson. Just go get the best offense and you're going to win the Super Bowl. Are we at that tipping point in the modern NFL?
Well, I mean, Kansas City is kind of a classic example of where you could make that point. I mean, their defense has been, during their Super Bowl runs, has been, between, mediocre and well, pretty much mediocre might be the top. And yet it hasn't mattered. I mean, my feeling with Cox, I mean, they drafted Jordan Davis last year. You've got to assume he's going to be much better this year. You've got to assume he's going to emerge in his second year in this league now that he knows what it takes, now that he has an offseason to train and prepare. So, I mean, they're going to be able, Cox is going to play a lot less snaps this year, which is going to help him and the Eagles. Slay did not play very well the second half of the season. He knows that, but cornerback is a ticklish situation for them. And I think it's, I think you can afford to be just okay on defense. I don't think you can afford to be a sieve. I don't think you can afford to give up big plays, which is kind of what, Jonathan Gannon was battered here for his approach to defense, but that's what it was. Give it up in little bits. Don't give up the big plays and don't become a strain on your offense. So,
To answer John's question, yeah, I know the Eagles got beat by the Chiefs this past year, but the year before that, the Rams beat the Bengals, and the Rams were the better defense. And the year before that, the Bucs beat the Chiefs, and the Bucs were the better defense. I know it's almost sacrilegious to say it about Tom Brady that he won a Super Bowl, and it wasn't because of Tom Brady. It was more because of the Bucs defense. But that's the way the Super Bowl game played itself out. So I don't think we've reached that tipping point yet. And to that end, did the Eagles miss out by not getting involved in bidding on Bobby Wagner at linebacker? I got no idea what kind of player Nick Morrow is going to be. He gets a bunch of tackles. He's a little undersized. He's not going to be as good as TJ Edwards. And Bobby Wagner is still a legit star linebacker in this league. I get it. Maybe he wanted to go back to Seattle, and maybe that was a foregone conclusion. But as far as I know, Eagles didn't get involved in the bidding. And I know they've never been a team that is overemphasized linebacker. I thought maybe with Sean Desai coming in, that could change a little bit. All right, it didn't so far this offseason. How big a mistake do you think it is, if at all, that they didn't make a play for a guy like Bobby Wagner at linebacker?
I can't say it's a big mistake, Jody. I just don't, I kind of agree with the whole philosophy around the league that, linebackers aren't as important as they used to be. They could have kept TJ Edwards for a minimal amount. He didn't sign a big contract. They chose not to. I just think they're planning on building, a safety-heavy, line-heavy offense that kind of squeezes the importance out of the linebacker position.
Yeah. Do you think they made a mistake? Well, I guess you just alluded that they didn't because of all-ball linebacker. But if you have a superstar all-ball linebacker like Bobby was, not now, but he once was. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. You're a Hall of Fame voter. I'm gonna say pretty confident Bobby's going to be a Hall of Fame player at one point.
Right.
Maybe Fred Warner's a better example right now. Are there players, and I bring this up for the draft as well, we were talking Bijan Robinson, are there players that devalued positions that are so good they'll change your thinking of we don't need that position, that particular position?
Yeah, I guess. I don't think there's anybody really that would change the Eagles' thinking regarding the linebacker position. Wagner's, you're right. He's Hall of Fame caliber player, but, he's also not 22 anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there are players like that. I mean, and in certain defenses, they're still important. I mean, it's clear, clearly in a defense like San Francisco's or with Ryan's going to Houston now, you're going to see, and in New York with the Jets, there are places where the linebacker position still is important, but it's not. If you looked at the Eagles chart for spending, when how they approach spending on positions, you'd find linebacker almost pretty much at the bottom every year for the last 10 years.
But they had, I'll say this, Domo, and TJ's not a star, but he's a really good player. I think he's a really good player.
Yeah.
Kaiser White, I think, is just an average player, but he's an average player. They've had guys like, the list, the Eric Wilsons of the world, the Paul Warlows. LJ Ford didn't even make it. He was actually a decent player in Baltimore. If you go to the draft, the Nate Garys of the world, I mean, there's levels of even what they tried to do. And TJ was at the top of that level. At some point you say, well, that's got to be worth $6.5 million. I mean, we could have Eric Wilson. Does that ever enter the equation? Well, and they might have Eric Wilson with Nicholas Morrow, I might add.
Yeah, I mean, they probably still feel that they're going to be able to pick up a linebacker or two here for practically nothing that can help them. But I don't know what the breakdown in percentage was last year, John, and how many times they had. Well, they never had three linebackers on the field.
No, never. Everybody talks about 4-3 and 3-4. God, I wish we could stop that, Domo. They never had three linebackers on the field.
Yeah, and that's kind of become.
Although people will say Hassan Reddick's a linebacker.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Yeah. Can you in any way, shape, or form with a straight face say, well, he's a linebacker? No, he's not. He's an edge player. I got to ask you guys this: if we're to the tipping point where we're saying defense doesn't matter, it's all about the offense, then what the hell is special teams? If we're dismissing defense, how insignificant is special teams? The Eagles have signed a bunch of these guys to one-year deals, veteran minimum, slightly more, under $2 million, not exactly breaking the bank, not exactly showing a major commitment. Are we going to make them our key special teams guys this upcoming year? Because I would suggest that special teams kind of bit the Eagles in the butt this year, Super Bowl punt return. Anybody remember? How are these guys going to be incorporated into Michael Clay's special teams unit, which Nick Sirianni, the end of the season, made it sound like Michael Clay was a rock star as a special teams coach? That wasn't what I saw, but are we even thinking about special teams at this point, Domo?
I'm sure they are. I don't know. It's hard to explain what happened last year. Well, and then them giving the extension they did to their special teams coach kind of baffled me. But I mean, it's too early to tell who's going to be on special teams because we don't know. You take all these guys that sign one-year contracts. A lot of them are going to be probably key players on the, starting on the defense and getting a lot of snaps, which is going to minimize how much they're going to play on special teams. But I mean, clearly they need to be better on special teams. I don't think I'm telling Nick Sirianni anything he doesn't know. I mean, regardless of the money he gave his special teams coordinator or how he did, I mean, they can't afford the breakdowns they had last year. There'll probably be a new punter. So, I mean, I think that's certainly something they're aware of. They'll probably try to look for some possible special teams contributors in this draft. Guys that can help them there, at least initially, before they become key role players. So we'll see. But yeah, I mean, they can't just, I doubt they're just dismissing it. If they are, then there should be a lot of people fired.
Yeah. We're not hearing anything about it. Yeah. I'm taking your word there, Damo, that somewhere in the back of their mind, we got to get better at special teams. At none of these signings, and I know that Howie doesn't come out after every single sign, I've not even seen one reporter go, and he'll be a contributor on special teams. Somebody's got to contribute on special teams this year.
Yeah, they've kind of shifted from the Dave Bipp era where they had the one or two players that were always kind of like special teams first. Now it's about, all right, we'll see who's on the 53. And then, Mike, you fix it. You figured it out. to that end, how he called all these 1-year deals, he called them he said he used the term lottery tickets, Damo.
Right.
So if you buy a bunch of lottery tickets, there's a lot of different lotteries. There's the Powerball where it could be life-changing, or there's the local bar scratch off that you just waste and try to hope $2 comes in your pocket. Which one of this group is the Powerball? Is there a Powerball? Which is I got $3 in my pocket. Let me see if I can win 5.
Yeah. It's funny. For years, they've always taken this approach, and I always kind of question it a little bit that, the more picks you have, the better you are, because if you got 100 picks, if you got 12 picks in a year, you're going to hit on somebody. That's been their philosophy, rather than some teams that look at it, they don't care how many picks. If they've got 6, they believe they can find 6 people that are going to be keepers. Usually they're wrong, but so if you had to ask me out of some of these 1-year guys, who's going to, I don't know, Greedy Williams maybe, guys that either have been hurt, that have something to prove, that did not get many snaps last year, that are, Howie's big on, we're putting them back on their contract year. Let's see if they can, and it's worked. I mean, he's had a lot of guys on 1-year deals that have played out of their minds. So I'm certainly not going to criticize the approach. They've signed just a ton of safeties here. They figure some are going to hit. They can always move Avonte Maddox back if Greedy Williams can play slot. I mean, I think they feel that with all these people they've signed, there's a way to kind of align their back 7 so that they'll be okay.
All right, Damo, need your take on this. We talked about it plenty on the show last week, so I want to get your read on it too. Is this a situation where they know something we don't know? And here's what I mean by that. Last week in Arizona, Howie Roseman spoke to the assembled media, and he kind of sung Jalen Hurts' praises to the top of the mountain. And then Nick Sirianni came out, and he kind of sung Jalen's praises to the top of the mountain. And then Jeff Lurie came out and bent over backward, most mature 24-year-old. We love to build around a franchise. None of them went spin control. Jalen Hurts is all this, but Howie had done it previously this offseason, a contract that makes sense for both sides. That was cast aside last week. It was Jalen Hurts, Jalen Hurts, Jalen Hurts. Do you think they've already made progress in the negotiation, and that they're already at a point where the Eagles know, all right, if we get to this, we're going to get this done. So we'll get it done, because I was kind of taken aback by the fact that they not only sung the praises of their young quarterback, they went over the moon, which to me just is ringing the cash register for Jalen Hurts. Do they know something we don't know?
Good question. I honestly don't know. I mean, they're keeping this so close to the vest. We're dealing with an agent who, hasn't been around for a long time. So we're not hearing rumors that she's spreading like we might if it was Drew Rosenhaus. If I had my hunch right now is that they're making some progress, but I'm also thinking that Nicole Lynn is not in a hurry because she doesn't want to make a mistake here. She doesn't want to sign and get him undervalued and then have Justin Herbert and Joey Burrow and Lamar Jackson come out and sign for $10 million more a year than he is. It doesn't seem like a hard thing to do. I mean, everybody seems that I've talked to feels Jalen's probably going to get north of 50 million, probably 52 or 53, even if he's the first one
going up, man.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me that if you're offering that right now, that he would have signed it. But the question is, do they want a short deal that the Eagles don't want to give? I mean, the Eagles clearly would like a long – they would like to sign him for 5 or 6 years because they don't want to have to do this again in 3 years. But maybe he feels differently. I mean, Joe Banner has long trumpeted the take another bite at the apple as soon as you can approach, with the cap going up so much right now that he thinks a lot of these players, including Hurts, should be signing short deals, 3-year deals, get as much as you can. And then in 3 years, you get another bite at the apple. You get to renegotiate again. And you can get a completely guaranteed deal that way because teams aren't going to be reluctant. I mean, even Baltimore offered Lamar Jackson 3 years completely guaranteed. Why he didn't take it, we don't know because he hasn't explained that. But
he doesn't have an agent. He's got a salesman. Yeah, that's probably the reason.
It's just really hard. I don't think this is going to linger because the Eagles don't want it to. I think they want this done before right now, if you ask me if I were putting money down, I'd say it gets done before the draft.
You do. Yeah.
I'm in the June 1st to June 10th camp. That's when they extended Carson back in the day. That's a big bookkeeping day in the NFL. You can manipulate some things. So early in the contract, you can put some stuff on both years. I think June 1st to June 10th is where I would lay money down. And if not, then right before training camp. Everybody goes away. I think people don't realize, Dama. They don't do anything. And the Eagles don't have minicamp. So once minicamp isn't over, so the OTAs, which is like June 9th to July, 27th, whatever it's going to be, nothing's happening. So it'll be June 1st to June 10th, or I shouldn't say a week before training camp. So July 17th to July 27th. Those are my two windows.
I think we can agree that it will get done before training camp.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, I've seen no evidence Jalen's going to complain if he makes, let's say, 48 to 52. And the more important part is guaranteed money, obviously.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's going to haggle over, I gotta be at 52. I'm not going to take 51. I just don't see that in him. I don't see him as that guy.
Right. No. Here's one thing we don't know and nobody knows. Damo brought up his agent earlier. New agent, trying to make her name, trying to become a star agent like the other star agents in the National Football League. How much does she have Jalen's ear of, Jalen, we can get it done, if you want, but if you hold steady, if you stay with me, I'll get you another $4 million. I would love to have someone tell me that sometime in my life. I can get you another $4 million a year. If you just give me the leeway, I'll guarantee you I'll get you another $4 million. Nobody's ever said that to me, Damo. But if my agent said that to me, I'd probably go, okay, go ahead. I'd give her the green light to continue to negotiate if someone made me that kind of promise. And that's why I think we are going all the way to July. I think dominoes need to fall. And Herbert's not going to go early, and certainly the Bengals aren't going to jump up and be aggressive and get the Burrow thing done early. It all comes down to Lamar. Where the hell are we at with Lamar? You just pointed out that, he didn't tell us that because he is his own agent. There's no leaking of stuff. Is he the key guy to getting Jalen Hurts signed here as an Eagle that Lamar Jackson's got to get done first?
I don't think so, Jody, because I think he's going to I think he's going to end up playing for the franchise tag. I don't think anything's going to happen. Everybody's accusing the owners of collusion. I just think it's a situation where, he wants a guaranteed contract. Nobody's going to give him a guaranteed contract for a number of reasons. I mean, you can't discount the fact that he's missed a large chunk of the end of the last two seasons.
No, you're not allowed to say that, Tomo.
I know, exactly. And you're also not allowed to say that he's 1-4 or whatever in the playoffs, but he is. And I mean, he's going to be a rich man, but he's not going to get, they're not going to be dumb enough, and no other team in this league is going to be dumb enough to give him the contract that the idiot in Cleveland gave Deshaun Watson.
And by the way, he could have had a guarantee, as you mentioned. If he wants to sign for 2 or 3 years, he can get a fully guaranteed contract. But nobody's going to get
let me jump in there on that. As you just mentioned, Damo, the Eagles would prefer to get a 5-year contract done with Jalen Hurts so they don't have to do this again. Right. It's a stressful time. It's indecision. The general manager's got to do what Howie's doing this year, which is build a roster, use your salary cap. without knowing what the biggest piece actually is. It's not easy what Howie's trying to do. And he doesn't want to do it again 2 years from now if they only do a 3-year contract where he's got to go through it again. You'd say the same thing for the Ravens, though, wouldn't you? That, all right, we can do a 3-year deal. We give them all the guaranteed money. Is it just to get it off the table because they've gone down the discontent road? Why wouldn't the Ravens want to do that same 5-year deal that the Eagles would want to do with Jalen Hurts?
Well, they do because, I mean, it's. I think the 3-year deal they offered him, well, it's not, again, as you pointed out, he doesn't have an agent, so we don't know for sure. But it's not, it hasn't been clear in Lamar's statements whether that 3 years fully guaranteed was part of a bigger deal, whether that's what they just offered him a 3-year deal like Kirk Cousins got several years ago. I mean, we're not sure about that. And it's not what Baltimore wants to do, but it's, you don't have to fund. I mean, you have to fund get completely guaranteed deals. And that's, I mean, nobody wants to do what Cleveland did and have to put, $250 million into escrow or whatever. So, and you're right. The Eagles don't want to do it. I don't know if he wants to do it. I'm just saying, another problem you got here, or not a problem, but something to consideration is the shorter the deal, the less money in the near future the Eagles have to play with as far as cap space. Because if Jalen signs a 3-year deal, if Lamar signs a 3-year deal, you can't push money back because there's no years to push it back to. Right. You can't use this year and next year to sign guys before the full weight of a quarterback contract kicks in. So. That's why I don't think it's hard to figure out what these guys are going to get as far as an average year per year. The problem is deciding on agreeing on how many years the deals are going to be.
At P Damo, make sure you follow Paul on Twitter. Read him at the 33rd Team in season. You can read him here on JAKIBsports.com, a stat package. I saw Marty Morningwig over at the 33rd Team was talking about the change in roster cut downs. They've eliminated them all now, Damo. It's been going slowly. Now it's 90 to 53. So number one, I'm going to say preseason football is even more meaningless because they're not going to play a starter to save that. They're going to have all these guys, but I don't think anybody cares about preseason football. Marty brought up a good point. It gives, younger players more of an opportunity to catch the eye of the coaching staff. And let's be honest, I mean, it's not as much practice. That's one of the things I always talked about with, when you curtail all these practices and everything's boiled down, that to me is less opportunities for young players. I mean, you don't get to see them. Do you think this will help the younger players eliminating that roster cut down, 90 to 85 and then 80, whatever it was?
To a degree. I mean, you're right. They'll probably get more playing time. How it impacts their reps in training camp practices in the preseason, we'll see. Because, I mean, you look at the Eagles, I mean, Nick's down to 6 OTAs and no mandatory.
Unbelievable. How does he look at young players? It's just
exactly.
Meetings?
Yeah. I mean, coach, I mean, Nick's kind of, and he's not alone. Most of these coaches just want to get to the starting line with a healthy team, even if it means a lot of these guys, they don't know about the young guys, even if it means, they haven't had as many reps in their system, both offense and defense. They just feel that at least we're healthy. I mean, that should be the new credo of this league. You get to week 1, at least we're healthy. But you're right. I mean, it's John Gruden, before he was sent to into exile, used to constantly complain about the restrictions the Players Association was putting on the ability to, during the offseason, the ability to have contact with your players and your young players to try to teach them the system, to try to, and that's why so many of these guys are spending time with quarterback coaches out in California now, and going down to, working out together down in Texas and all this stuff. So yeah, it's not a good thing for I guess young players will get a few more reps, but by the same token, you need your veterans to get practice reps to be ready
That's
for the
true.
season.
Yeah,
Since
that's
you're not going
true.
to basically what you're
A
going
lot
to
of
do.
ways, a guy like Reed Blankenship, it's more impressive in today's era to be able
Oh
to
yeah.
not only open somebody's eyes, but then be ready to play. That's pretty stinking impressive.
Make a roster and be starting by the end of the year and being penciled in as the start of the year after. That is very impressive out of a guy like Reed Blankenship.
Yeah.
All right, Damo, my last question is league wide and fan related. John and I disagreed on this a little bit last week. The NFL actually had a vote for flexing Thursday night football games to Amazon. They put it to a vote. Wasn't just a conversation, it was an actual vote. So it could have happened this year. If you're an Eagle fan who likes to go on the road with the Birds, it very well could have been you could have gotten screwed with your Sunday game after you've made your plans being flexed to a Thursday night in December as the Eagles are making another Super Bowl run. The votes came back 22-8-2, 22-4, 8 against, 2 abstentions. John Mara, the owner of the Giants, came out and was pretty verbal in his objection to it. So, he was one of the 8. I hear the Jets and the Bears were also teams that voted against it. John said he thought it was a little disingenuous. It's going to happen. So taking a stance against it here in the first year doesn't really do it. Well, yeah, it did. It kept them from doing it this year. And we'll see how the votes go forward. For those who voted against it, was it just hey, let me score some brownie points with my fan base by saying I'm voting against this, but know full well you're going to cash the check down the road? Or do you think it was something you should give an owner like that who takes a stance against his majority of the rest of his owners for doing what's right by his fan base?
Well, it's hard to say. I assume some of them are, feel as strongly as Mara. Maybe not a lot of them, but there are probably a couple more that also feel it's just a disgrace to do this. And there's others that probably figured, well, there's no hurry with this. I'm making my team is worth $6 billion now.
Yeah, maybe
the race to $6.5 billion. Yeah, maybe pick up the pace on that one, Damo.
I freely admit, maybe I'm too cynical, but my point is, if Amazon pushes for this, they're going to get it because they're signing the check, and that's I compared it. I told Jody, it's like the politician who knows his side. He knows the bill's going to pass, so they don't need his vote, and they go up on the platform and they say, "Oh, this is terrible," but they know it's passing, so they don't care. Ultimately, if Amazon pushes for it, they're going to get it. So maybe I'm too cynical.
Yeah.
No, you're right. Because
here's the reason I disagree with you, John. They had a vote. It didn't pass. Yeah. You can't say, eventually it's going to pass. Well, yeah, but it didn't. They had the chance to pass it this year. They didn't. So kudos to those who took the stand. And if it's only for 1 year, that eventually happens next year.
My cynicism point is if Amazon pushes for it, ultimately it'll stop. In other words, it will not become, the players, the fans. It'll be, Amazon wants it. Well, and I'll just recede to the background. That's my
question for both you guys. What year is the Super Bowl going to be streamed? If Amazon has got the kind of power that John's suggesting, when they want it, it's going to happen. What year exactly do I need to prepare in my own mind for the Super Bowl to be streamed rather than on broadcast television?
The Super Bowl is streamed right now on every
solely streamed.
Not too far. Well, I don't know if
it depends on the landscape.
I think they'll work a deal out first where like now where you can watch.
Yeah, it depends on the landscape. But to answer your question, Jody, if Amazon signs the biggest check, they're getting the Super Bowl. It's just a matter of what the platform is. If they sign the biggest check,
when that happens,
that depends on the technology and what people have been predicting in television for years. Streaming is going to be bigger than television. Hasn't happened yet. If it does happen, it's not going to be an issue. But the biggest check wins.
You saw the quotes from Jeffrey Lurie in Arizona. I mean, he basically said streaming's the next great thing. I mean, that this is where we're going. This is the way the kids want to watch the games, and that's where the money is. That's where the NFL goes, where the money goes.
Yeah.
Don't disagree with that. I'm just wondering what the timing of it is going.
Well, nobody knows the timing because people like us got to get off the mortal coil, Jody. You know, as younger people, you know, to them it's second nature. To us, we want linear television. You know, the more of us that go, unfortunately, that's the turning point.
And I will get my bitching out of the way. I've already done some of it today, Dama, so I'll apologize in advance to you. Here's my problem with streaming, and I had to deal with it this weekend. Phillies are playing, Sixers are playing, and WrestleMania is on. And WrestleMania is streaming. And when I go to WrestleMania, it takes 30 seconds. You got to get to the right channel. You got to wait. Then you punch it up. Then you want to go right back to the other game. I like access. I like to be able to jump around and immediately get to the next thing and go from thing to thing to thing. And streaming, with all this great technology, still takes friggin' time. So get up to speed streaming, then you'll get a Jody McDonald fan, and I'll jump on the bandwagon. I'm not there yet because you're still too slow.
I liked everything about Amazon's presentation last season, as far as their pregame, their people, but I don't know, and I still don't know if it's my cable system. It just didn't come off as if you were watching it live. It was, and I don't know if that's because my cable's too slow or what. But there was something weird about that. But everything else I kind of liked about Amazon's presentation. Some of the new things they tried, the people they use, as far as I like Herb Street. I like their pregame people. But
it was I didn't have a problem with it.
Herb Street was great.
You know, there's a large flat screen right above my head here in my little studio. I think I have like 4 or 5 in my house, way too many. And every time somebody young comes over, they don't do anything with it. They're just this with their phone. You can go anywhere and watch whatever you want, but they want to watch it on their phone. That's the tipping point when people like us go and they take over. That's
when you say go, John.
I mean, yeah, we're all going, Domo. We're all going. It's just a matter of when, unfortunately. I don't want to go, but I'm going.
We're going to let Damo go because we kept him a full 40 minutes. So we thank you much for jumping on board with us. Hadn't had him in a couple of weeks. Good to catch up. Damo, we will be certainly getting you on before the draft. Thanks for jumping in with us today. We'll get you up, like I said, in about 2 weeks. Thanks, bud.
Take care, guys.
Thanks.
Paul Domowitch, 33rd Team, and JAKIBSports.com. Was it here with you and I last week, or was it one of my other broadcast outlets that somebody complained about the Amazon product, that they really didn't do a good job? And I came very much to the defense.
I think you were defending, somebody was criticizing Al Michaels, who, by the way, was at WrestleMania.
No, I brought up Al Michaels. Somebody was criticizing the entire Amazon product, which I disagreed with, in that I thought Herb Street was great and Al Michaels was Al Michaels. That they were, he doesn't care. It's Amazon, it's streaming. He had that end of game call in the Jacksonville game where he didn't do enough screaming and yelling, which I thought was ludicrous. No, it had to be you and I, because we both talked about the fact that you said, you don't watch pregame. You don't watch pregame. You tune in when the game's on, and as soon as the game's over, you're out of there anyway. So it had to be here on the show. Who was it who said the Amazon product wasn't that good? Because I firmly disagree with that. I thought Herb Street was great last year.
No, you brought it up. I don't know who you mentioned.
It was because one of our guests.
Might have been one of your callers. I don't know. Might have been on a different.
No, it was here because it was you. Because I remember you saying, "Yeah, Jody, I can't comment on the pregame because I don't ever watch the Amazon."
Oh no,
pregame.
I said that. I don't think anybody.
Who was it? No, we had a guest on who specifically said, "Yeah, Amazon's product was lacking because." I don't remember who it was. Shame on me.
I'm getting old. I'm
you and I both can't. I can't remember last week. Shame on me. Yeah. But somebody didn't like the Amazon overall product, and I watched some of their pregame stuff, and it wasn't great, and some of their postgame stuff, it wasn't great. Of course, the Thompson's only okay. Ryan Fitzpatrick. No,
I don't even know who's on there. Planet. I met one of their sideline reporters at the Super Bowl who was very nice.
Who's that?
One of the Spanish reporters. She was extremely nice, but I have no idea what their platform looks like when it comes to pregame and postgame.
Well, pre and post, Fitzpatrick, Richard Sherman. Who am I forgetting? The big offensive lineman was on.
Yeah, she mentioned Richard Sherman. So now that you say that, but I'll look it up in the break.
Brain farting on the Rams offensive lineman who just retired after winning the Super Bowl.
Oh, Andrew Whitworth.
Whitworth was part of that pregame show. Nothing special, but I thought Herb Street just wowed me with the fact that I remember when he got hired, I said, yeah, no, he's college football. They're entrusting one of the biggest products, a solo game, week in, week out, to a guy who's not really an NFL guy. Come on, what are you doing? But damn, he was good. He was on top.
Ira Gomez, by the way.
Gomez?
Yeah, very nice.
Really?
Very nice.
I didn't pay attention.
In more ways than one, by the way. Are we allowed to say that now? Very fetching as well.
You can say whatever the hell you want. It's YouTube, brother. Yeah, I didn't pay attention to the sideline reporting of the Amazon, but that's on me. All right, Johnny Mac coming back. Still got plenty of Eagles stuff to talk about. And yes, at some point we'll get a little WrestleMania commentary in. And again, let me once again, I promise it's the next to last time I'll do it. I'll do it again in the last hour. Bitching about streaming. I get off the air. I'm on the air till 10 o'clock last night. And then 10 o'clock comes and I want to jump over to WrestleMania. But the Sixers are still playing. The Phillies are still playing. I want to be able to jump back and forth. I got to see the end of the baseball game. I got to see the end of the basketball game. And I want to catch them, just find out where they are in the card for WrestleMania. And you go to Peacock and you got to wait. And then you got to push in the right channel and you got to wait. And then you watch for a little bit, and then you go over to cable. Now, you can get back to cable immediately. At least you can with my setup with Comcast. You hit last button, boom, you're right back. But then when you want to go back to streaming, you got to take about 30 seconds to get up to speed. Come on. If Amazon is going to take over the world and they're going to dictate everything because they got the biggest checkbook, well, then pay the technology geeks. Get it so that I can jump from channel to channel to channel, whether it's cable, whether it's streaming or whatever. Give me immediacy.
Well, they're getting there, Jody, but you and I haven't gotten to the point like, when we have Mike Gill on, I know he's a YouTube TV guy, so he's completely cut the cord. There's a lot of people that have completely cut the cord and their entire package is just streaming. And they don't have cable or satellites.
Then right now they're wasting their lives 30 seconds at a time. It takes.
Well, I don't know how it works, so we'll ask Mike. We'll ask Mike that on Wednesday. Because I don't have that setup. I'm with you. I have the setup where you have, in my case, it's satellite. Your case, it's cable. And I got to go back and forth to streaming. Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. Other people have gone. I've thought about it. I've gone because that's the way it's going. Somebody, because I used to do a lot of TV reporting earlier in my career, sports TV reporting. From the apex of ESPN was in like 96 million homes. It's now down to 76. Significant. Every single channel, the big channels, TBS, TNT, USA, all dropped already 20 million people. And it ain't going back up. It's just going to keep falling.
Now, and again, we don't really need to get off on this tangent, but since we're there, we might as well stay there. If ESPN is part of a like Hulu package, do they not get credit for that?
Yeah, no, they get credit. They get credit ratings-wise for all the major streaming platforms. So YouTube TV counts. So this is live program, obviously, not on demand, but they get credit for the live programming. Like Peacock has live programming, they get credit for that ratings wise. And the Super Bowl, puts out every year the ratings, and slowly but surely, every year it's a little bit more streaming. Every year it's a little bit less linear. but it's still much more linear than streaming at this point.
On the Super Bowl, but John says at some point Amazon's going to own the world, so they'll be in
I didn't
control.
say Amazon. It could be somebody else. It could be Netflix. It could be somebody we're not even having. It could be
some
Apple
streaming service, right?
It could be Apple. You know, but they got the big checkbooks now. They got the big checkbooks.
They do, and someday, and I don't know if I'll be around for it, but the Super Bowl will be streamed only. Don't know if that's going to be in my lifetime, or my daughter's lifetime, or my daughter's lifetime, but it will happen at some point. All right, McMullen and McDonald coming back. We still got an hour left to play. Stay with us here on Birds 365.